This is part 2 of my conversation with my husband, Dr. Grant Dean. In this part, we move beyond science and into something deeper, how intuition, spirituality, and even mediumship show up in real life. And apologies for the audio quality. Welcome to Mediumship Sparks, where we connect more deeply with spirit and source and follow the sparks of insight and inspiration that bring us greater awareness, healing, and just more flow into our lives. I'm Noelle Dean, intuitive medium, licensed therapist, and your host. A quick note before we begin: this podcast is for educational purposes only and provides general information. It is not medical or psychological advice and is not a substitute for care from a licensed health professional. I'm so grateful we get to step into this together. Let's dig in.
I want some other kind of information download. I've had enough science, thank you, to last a lifetime. I would like some other kind of innate knowledge made evident to me.
What?
The fundamental practice of being happy in life would be nice. Just having insight, download, and intuition, and not to study it, just to be it.
Have you asked for that kind of download or an insight into it?
Well, I've yearned for it. I wouldn't say I've asked for the download yet. But that's what the ringing must be about.
Even though we are surrounded by loving energies, healing guides, they wait to be asked. Even if we're suffering, they have to be asked because we have free will. And they're not supposed to intrude. So maybe you could ask for that. Or take a very long shower and see what comes to you from there. What do you think other scientists miss by not including the idea that information can come to them and it could be valid information?
There are a bunch of scientists. Turn the crank.
What does that mean?
Imagine you had a machine that produced the most marvelous throws between that.
Okay.
And you could make different throws of different colors, and you can put different yarn in, and we come out with different throws. And turning the crank is
Just checking.
You would turn the crank. And the machine is well known and understood. There are a number of them. You churn out throws. They're different, but they're all throws. Somebody comes along and says, what we need is a completely different machine. So to do the first kind of work, you don't need to build a new machine. You don't need to have the skills and the techniques and the talents to be able to build a new kind of machine. You just need to know how to turn the crank. To build a new machine, you need inspiration. And so when it comes to science, people like, they used to be called, they have been coined the dancing Wu-Li masters. People like Albert Einstein, Richard Feynman, Madame Curie. People who had these deep fundamental insights into the way the world worked that came from where certainly a great deal of hard work. But it was perspiration combined with inspiration.
Gotcha. Yeah.
And they came up with fundamentally new views on the structure of the world and how it works. I don't know that it's possible to do that without inspiration, but not all scientists have that level of inspiration. I'm not Einstein. We can only admire what these people have accomplished during their time on the planet. And clearly they understood and honored their intuition, understood it to the extent that they knew what to do with it. I don't know if they know where it came from, if anybody knows. It's mysteries.
Well, some people might say our guides. It could be a mystery.
Where did they get that?
They're tapped into a literal universe of information. I'm making this up, but my visual of what I would call the universe or how we're all connected spiritually, it's just a ginormous network.
That information is useful to me only in the sense that it would help me have better intuition. Because we could make up a dozen different stories. And in a sense, I don't really care where it comes from. Although perhaps I should.
I think you're doing fine. And I really liked what you were saying about how you immerse yourself in something. And then that pushes you along faster, which of course only makes logical sense that it would, and that it's all you're really thinking about. And I would assume also what's occurring to me is the idea that as you're looking to bring in these different pieces, the energy of that information may also be drawn to you. I could be totally off, but I would assume that if I was a scientist who was in spirit and wanted certain things accomplished in the world, I might keep an eye on certain people that are potentially going to produce that kind of thing. You might be one of those people to one of those scientists. So they might be turning the crank. Wait till he falls asleep.
Might be right. I do have ideas for a fusion machine. I do have ideas about build better medical devices.
Yeah.
I have ideas that sometimes pan out. I don't know where they come from. But I understand this idea of energies being attractive. Whether there are certain mathematical equations that I'm very drawn to because they're beautiful. And
I was waiting for you to use the B word about math.
Yes, it's a language. It's like the quintessential romantic French. It has this elegance and beauty to it in the way that describes the world. And human invention, we invent the symbolism, the metaphors for the world through mathematics. There are certain kinds of mathematics that are truly stunningly beautiful, and I'm drawn to them. I have, in the course of my career, come up with one or two equations that I felt that about. But I remember exactly where I was and what I was doing.
Did you, sorry.
No, go ahead.
Did you wake up with them? Were you sitting with it and then it just poof,
I didn't wake
crystallized
up,
and came to you?
but I'm thinking about it and suddenly everything.
Okay.
It's very nonlinear.
Yeah.
It's not incremental. It's one moment you don't know, the next moment you do know.
Wow. It's such a wonderful experience when that happens. Yeah. Very nice. You look very pleased right now. I'm remembering that. Yes.
One of the equations.
Very nice. I'm just trying to think of what else. Like one thing that I guess I have sat with, and just me personally, about intuition and mediumship, and you being a scientist, is there are times when you've gotten messages that I've delivered from your parents or other relatives that have crossed over that don't seem like they give you much peace or peace of mind, or like it doesn't seem all that comforting. Sometimes other people, when they get messages, it can make a big difference depending on what it is. Some of the messages you've gotten are filled with love and pride, apologies and making an amends. I've wondered if it's you're sort of teetering on, I don't know how much I believe you're really, talking to my mother. I've wondered that. I never really thought to ask you before, but
I think the fact you think that is perhaps because I've not given you insight into the origin of the pain, the discomfort around it. When you give me messages, I already know. You're not telling me something that I don't know. And the pain comes from the fact that then I can't talk to them. I know we can have these mediumship. That's different from picking up the phone and saying hello. And I was so close to my parents. It's like part of me died. It's like I lost part of myself that is now gone and I can't get it back. And it's the weft and weave of them in my life on a day-to-day basis. I understand that's gone because it is gone, because that is the way of things. That is how it goes. And I have to move on. And I have moved on. I've accepted that they're gone. Yeah, but I used to talk to them every day.
Why would you accept that they're...
In the sense that they're not here
I understand.
every day to talk to and interact with and just enjoy the weft and weave of my daily life. They're gone in that sense.
I understand.
But then you just said,
well,
why do I think that they're gone? They are gone.
Let me rephrase that. One of the things I talk about related to mediumship is that I love it. One of the reasons I love it so much is because I feel like it is a tool to help lower the suffering of grief. Our culture has convinced people that there is this severing of the relationship between us and the person who's left their body. And so we have to completely mourn the loss of that person, like they are gone forever. We can only hope to be reunited when we leave our own bodies. I just think that's sad, and that, pardon my language, that it's bullshit. Because if you wanted to talk to your parents every day, I think that you could. You could have an experience of their presence in your life every single day if you wanted to. I don't do that. I know that everybody in spirit has a job and a purpose. So I don't call upon our cat Tiger or my grandfather or your parents. When they come, I enjoy the visit. And I don't have that experience with them every day, but I experience people visiting and energies touching me or my guide. I have that every day. So I don't feel that loss. And I would assume other mediums feel the same way. We don't experience the loss in the same kind of way. In my understanding, I feel like that's putting yourself through extra pain. Maybe you don't have to.
Perhaps you did feel that. But let me give you an example of what it's like for me. One of my favorite desserts is passion fruit pie. It's like lemon bar, but with passion fruit. I make it from the passion fruit we have of our wines, and it is exquisite. The difference for me is between eating a passion fruit bar or talking with somebody about what the passion fruit bar would be like if I could eat it again. And then somebody telling me one day, you will never, ever again eat passion fruit bar. You can talk about what it would be like if you could. My mother will never hug me again. My father will never pick up the phone and say, hello, my boy. It's so great to hear your voice. That's not going to happen.
Yeah. No, I get that. I'm not trying to take away from that. The day-to-day experience, visiting with people, sharing a meal, looking in somebody's face and laughing and smiling and making eye contact. It's not the same when they're in spirit. I'm not pretending that it's different from that.
And that's what I have to accept is gone. In some ways, my life is impoverished because of it. I accept that. Then it's okay. I still feel their love. I still feel pride and admiration that my love for the world, things I want to do on it. But they're gone. And that's it.
They're not accessible to have the experience that you used to have. I get that. Yeah. I remember when there was a period when my mother-in-law, they both passed within 11 days of each other. This was in 2019. And there was a time when my mother-in-law would visit every night while we were watching TV. And I knew because a lot of people in spirit have calling cards, especially when they visit you regularly. On my whole chest, my whole abdomen, I would suddenly get very cold. And then I would be able to see her in my mind's eye sitting on the ottoman, just how she would with her legs a bit spread, cupping her hands and leaning forward. Hey, guys. Like, what you doing? And I loved that. And that really did happen every night for weeks. I'm not sure why there was that stint. Maybe there were other things she wasn't caught up in doing yet. But it was really cool when it happened. I would try to tell her, please make your son cold. I'm freezing over here, Mom. That was delightful in its own way. But yeah, it's not the same. Even my grandfather, who I cherished when he was here, and I still do, I don't communicate with him very often. I have also accepted that he is not accessible in that way, just like with your parents.
Yeah. For me, it was an important part of the grieving process.
Yeah, no, I hear you.
But I never had anguish over completions. Unexpressed love.
Do you think that if you'd never gotten messages through me, at some point you might have chosen to get a mediumship session so you could have the experience of having this conversation with them?
If there was unfinished business, it was very personal, and I wouldn't necessarily want to. I've been willing to communicate with them through you.
Yeah.
I know that I would want to have done that now.
Oh, okay. Gotcha.
There were some things I was angry about. You being a medium was helpful for me to be able to express that anger and get a response.
So it was helpful in that way, at least.
In that particular, but that is not the origin of the sadness you're talking.
Oh, I get that. Yeah. No, it's two different things.
Yeah.
Do you think that when you are, let's say, somewhat retired, because we both know you're never going to really retire.
Not really.
Yeah. Do you think there's anything else with your intuition that you would want to develop? Because maybe you wouldn't have to worry about being as focused on science or being reputable in that way.
I think our lives on the planet are a dance. We know what's good for us and what we know what's good for the people around us and what's with 100% certainty. I do believe we have this innate capacity to fundamentally know which way is up. And yet we struggle to express that with grace and ease, even though we know knowing isn't enough. We have to let go of the forces, thoughts, and the influences that make us want to disregard that intuition. And as I grow older, I develop the capacity to focus on what's important, focus on the actions and thoughts and the states of being that arise with ease, that enable me to complete my mission with ease. And as I get older, I want to continue to develop that capacity. I want to become more comfortable with intuition, embrace it, so that I can let go of the struggle of living a good life and achieving the things I want to achieve before I go. I truly believe that the more I practice that, the more I become capable of doing that. And it changes my relationship with people around me. When I'm fully in touch with my intuition, there's a kind of force to it. That's how that big machine got. I was the scientist responsible for $7 million ocean simulator. And I knew intuitively that it was the right thing to build. And when I was deeply embedded in the core of that knowledge, people around me knew it. And they became inspired by it. And they trusted it. And they connected it with their own intuition. And it made sense to them. So suddenly I was part of an entire community fighting for this, working on it, making it happen. I think ultimately it was the connection of their intuition and my intuition, and we all saw the vision. We all saw the rightness. And it was not easy. It was a mighty task. And there's no way I could have ever done it on my own. I fundamentally believe that my ability to get the interest and the energy and the life's force of the people who also committed to it was through a connection of our intuition. And once they saw it for themselves, once they intuited for themselves, oh, I get it. I get why they're doing this. Then it became theirs. So it's that joining of intuition. I believe that comes from an intuition for the greater good. If you're connected to that greater good and you can bring that forth in a way where people understand this carbon capture thing is about too. Except this was his intuition. And I was captured by his intuition. And now I'm bringing my own to that.
So you'd like to do more projects that way?
Yes. People I respect, care about, admire, love. A mutual creation, an active creation in the world based on our intuitive knowledge of what we should be.
Yeah, and just the words ease and flow keep coming to me. Ease and flow. Because even though that was not an easy project, and I think it took about 6 years and a lot of phone calls and a lot of meetings, and this big machine that he's talking about is within this building that already existed at UCSD. It's called SOARS, SOARS.
Scripps Ocean Atmosphere Research Simulator.
That was a mouthful. But it was meant to make it safe to do experiments in a contained environment from Arctic to tropical temperatures and conditions. And it's a wind chamber with, I actually paid attention. I remembered something. But there were a lot of good reasons, like practical reasons and maybe not so practical reasons to build that kind of machine. But I can see how you capturing something, and it's coming back to me when I worked in a group home, basically. There were certain events that just came to me as an inspiration that needed to happen. Like it was time for this, or we had family day. All the staff probably hated me when I would initiate. Oh, it's probably that time of year for family day. It was something that the kids really loved having happen on the campus. I couldn't unknow it. So I would get inspirations for events and then I would carry it through. I couldn't unknow or unsee those types of things. So I would have to do that. I feel that way now about channel writing books. I feel very clear that there's this to-do list in the back of my mind of what I've seen I'm supposed to do. And I've seen this pile of books. There's 6 more books. I hear you about getting this sense of something, and then you sit and marinate on it. I'm not immersing myself in the way that you do, but I will when it feels time to work on one of those books. Like one of those books is coming up this year. So I think that's my job this year. It's really just intuiting it, because if it were just me, I'd be like, crap, I'm busy doing other stuff.
I think it's a bit like a garden. You've got to throw fertilizer in the seeds and water and light.
And tend to it.
You have to
and respond to it.
You have to give it time. And if you neglect it,
it withers. Not like intuition goes away. When I talk to people who, let's say, were training to do mediumship and haven't done it in a while, they always feel rusty. They're always afraid they're not going to get anything. But it doesn't go anywhere. But it's almost like we forget for a moment.
And I think intuition is like that. You have to dwell in it. We might not know exactly where it comes from, but we have to recognize the experience, encourage it. To the extent that we know we can do certain things that do encourage it, that's what we need to do.
I believe that there's guides or loved ones in spirit or ancestors that want to impart information on us to make our lives better, other people's lives better. If you are engaging and listening, they're going to keep interacting with you. But if you're ignoring them, everybody would get discouraged. She's not really paying attention right now, so let's wait and hope that comes at some point. I think that's part of why we get certain obstacles or challenges in our life, is to make us notice things differently, so that we are maybe being more sensitive to the signals that are coming to us and not just ignoring that.
I'm getting an intuitive sense that we're nearing the end of our conversation. Do you have any final question?
What's your favorite part about living with a medium?
How joyfully you embrace what you can do and how you enjoy the addition to others' lives.
What's the downside?
No, there's no downside. I don't think there's a downside.
Do you have anything you want to leave people with?
Just, if you have your own sense of intuition, to enjoy it, acknowledge it, work with it, encourage it to develop and grow, and see where it takes you.
Well said, husband.
Thank you, Ivy.
Thank you, Dr. Grant Dean, for joining us today.
You're very well.
Thank you for joining us today for this episode, which was very special. And I hope you enjoyed it and got some value out of it. Thank you for joining us for Mediumship Sparks. I'm Noelle Dean, your host, and I will look forward to seeing you next time.
If you want more, if you really enjoyed this episode, give it a positive rating, and that will encourage me to come back.
Or not. No, I'm kidding. Take very good care of yourselves, and I will see you next time. Bye. Thanks for spending this time with me on Mediumship Sparks. If this episode resonated with you, please like it, subscribe, rate, and certainly share it with somebody else who could benefit. If you're interested in any support I might be able to provide as you navigate your spiritual path, please feel free to check out my offerings at connectingwithnoelle.com and reach out at mediumshipsparkspodcast@gmail.com. I'll look forward to being with you again soon.